What's up, Mod Fam? Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Wedding Trail. So excited to be here. Thank you all for tuning in. We have a nice little episode here. I'm going to talk about several things. I'm going to, first of all, thank all you guys who came out to our showcase in January 21st at the Red Lion. It was so lit. I loved it. I loved seeing all the previous clients that come out. We had even like a couple that came out on a date, it was date night, and they surprised, I remember the groom surprised the bride, his wife, with a date night, and the date night was coming to our show. So that was incredible. Great to see you guys. I saw some new faces in there. There are people that show up to our showcase that they don't let me know that they're coming. So they just, because they see it on our website, I promote it, and they just show up and they're kind of on the sidelines scoping us out. I can tell you, I can tell who those couples are. And they're always in pairs. It's funny. But then a lot of people come up and say hello. I love putting a name to a face. It's very cool. And some people just love to see us time after time after time. They just keep coming back, and it's so great to have that kind of energy there. So thank you so much. We are going to have the next showcase is Thursday, March 10th. 7 to 10 p.m. Again, at the Red Lion. It's going to be a good time, a different kind of energy. It's a Thursday night, right? It's not Friday, a little bit more mellow, but who knows who comes out? You know, there's still people partying out there on Bleecker Street on a Thursday night. So come on out. First date, the first set, I call it the showcase set. So we play a variety, all my favorite stuff from the Motown era to the disco and maybe some classic rock. We play some Dua Lipa in there. It's a variety. It showcases pretty much everything that you're going to hear at a wedding. It's all my personal favorites. Okay. I'm not out there trying to impress people with some stuff that, is not fun for me to play. That's like the number one requirement of this band. You know, I started this band and in the early stages, I tried to please everybody. So we were playing all kinds of stuff. Now, 10 years into it, it's the requirement is that I have to enjoy every single song that we play. And it's shocking to some people, but every song on our repertoire list, I enjoy it. And that's the way it is. It's my band, my rules, right? And it's what brings everything together and makes the community stronger because the band leader is having a good time, right? If the leader is not having a good time, nobody else is going to have a good time. So I got to play the songs that I like. Boom. That's the way it's done. The second set is all 90s. Why? Because I want to. I like it. I like all 90s stuff. So, it's a very, it's something that sometimes clients bring up because they see our repertoire list, and it's not like those Hank Lane or like those big agencies who have pages and pages and pages and pages of repertoire. Like every song that they ever played even one time, they'll put it on the repertoire list. And then they come to our website and they see it looks like a more condensed repertoire list. And I'm like, yeah, because I don't play every single song ever that we played, right? Or that I could ever think of. There are a lot of songs that we can play. I don't put on there because I'm not into them. I don't want to play them, right? So that's the repertoire. Come to our showcase. You're going to see all my favorite stuff. And it really, it creates the brand that I'm after. And in turn, it gives me the clients that I really want to have, right? If I put a bunch of stuff that I don't like in there, I'm going to get a bunch of clients that are requesting music that I'm not so into, and we're not aligned, right? They're not going to be a good fit. I put my favorite stuff on the repertoire list. I'm going to get to work with people that are really aligned with me and my taste. So that is a big, big deal for me. Thank you for everyone who appreciates my tastes and the way that I run my band. So, next thing on the list that I want to talk about, I get a lot of questions about this, and I know that people, especially band members and also clients, and other vendors in the industry, they want to know, or I want to share with you, how the deposit system works. I'm going to take a drink here. So, the deposit system. What happens when I receive a deposit? Deposits are 20% of the final invoice, of the total invoice. At the signing of the contract, I take 20%. People put that down. Those deposits, first of all, are non-refundable. I don't think I have ever refunded one deposit ever. I think actually the only time that I gave a deposit back was when there was a couple, they booked us, they sent me the check. I got the check and I didn't deposit it. And literally like 2 days later, they called me and they were like, oh my God, my venue just screwed us and they double booked, or like the owner ran off. I think it was like the owner ran off with everybody's deposits and they screwed everybody. So 2 days later, I hadn't deposited the money and they said, man, we're screwed. Can you give us back the deposit? I said, sure, no problem. I didn't lose anything in that transaction. And I felt bad for them. Of course, I'm not going to take their money like that in that situation 2 days later, right? So that's the only time in the history. Like during COVID, I did not return a single deposit, okay? Some people asked me. Some people got a lawyer and it turned into a whole thing. And let me explain how the deposits work. So I get the deposit. The deposits are non-refundable. Under any circumstance. Even in COVID, we just reschedule, right? So we get the deposit. The deposit gets in my hands. It's usually either a check or sometimes a Venmo me and Zelle me. I get the deposit, I get the money, and I put it in what I call a pass-through account. This pass-through account is an account that has one singular job, and it's just to hold all the income, everything that comes in. Only business income goes in there. It's a business account. And it's a pass-through account because it's a holder of money. Every 2 weeks, everything that went in there gets distributed into all my other accounts. It goes into my personal account, my share of it, which is, I think it's set to like 44% right now. 44% of that deposit goes to me as owner's compensation, right? That's like a commission, you can think of it. About 21% goes right into my tax account. Right? Got to pay taxes. Then the rest of it goes into my business expense account for advertising, for all kinds of business expenses. I could go on about that. And that happens every 2 weeks. So I get paid every 2 weeks. Taxes get paid every 2 weeks, or they get put in that tax account, which I pay quarterly. And then the expense account gets its share, right? And that money is gone. So if somebody put a deposit down, that money gets flushed through our system, my Mod Society system of accounts, every 2 weeks. It's gone, right? And so that's why when people say, I've had people break off their engagement. So they book us, in like say 6 months go by. They break off the engagement or they cancel the wedding or whatever. Hey, can we have the deposit back? No. Okay, first of all, the contract clearly states that they're non-refundable. Second of all, that money is gone. Like I already got paid. I already paid quarterly taxes. I already paid my business expenses. It doesn't just sit in some account and waits until the end, the date, right? It doesn't sit there. So I just want to make sure people understand how that works. And pretty much other vendors in the wedding industry, that's how it works. That money is used to keep the business going, keep it alive, keep it flowing, especially during the off season when there are no gigs, right? Right now, it's February 3rd, 2nd, February 2nd. We don't have any work in February. So I'm getting deposits. The only way that I'm keeping this business afloat is because I'm getting deposits for people who are booking us for 2023 mostly, some a little bit of 2022. And that money is going through the system. It's getting flushed through that pass-through account, which sits there for 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, I make the deposits, the transfers into personal account, into business expenses, into the taxes, right? And that money's gone. And so that's how I'm able to have this as a full-time job, because there's always cash flow going into Mod Society and my accounts. So I'm always earning in some way. But it's really up to me to make sales. Right now, it's all about sales, January, February, March, all about those sales, those 2023 sales. So feel free to reach out to me. I am hardcore on the emails these days, like all day, all night. answering. I'm doing Zoom calls. I'm really like, I'm the only salesperson of Mod Society. So I'm really on those emails. So if you email me right now, you can expect a pretty quick turnaround, except for the days that I go snowboarding. I just recently became addicted to snowboarding, so I'm out all day. I usually put an away message, usually on Mondays or Wednesdays. Other than that, Sunday night at 10 p.m., I'm replying, right? It's like full on. So that's how deposits work. I know a lot of people don't understand how deposits and systems and the money, the side of things, really operate in these businesses, but that's how it works out. And then for the final payment is the other 80%, right? It's due 4 weeks before the date. Why do I ask for 4 weeks before the date? Because I got to run it through my payroll system. I got to funnel it through my entire account system. So they send me a check. Couples will send me a check, or it's almost always a check. I cash it. It goes into my income that pass-through account, and immediately I take out the payroll, right? Everything that's going to the musicians. That payroll, it's a fixed amount. I already know what it is for that gig, and it goes into a payroll account. And then what's left of there, again, it gets funneled through my system. So I get my cut as owner's compensation. The 21% goes into the taxes account, and then the rest goes into my operating expenses. And then within the operating expenses, I have several accounts in there. So we're talking about promotional content budget. There's also equipment maintenance and equipment purchases budget. And there's also a bunch of other smaller, I have like a legal, and I call it legal and bullshit budget. It's an account. Those are all accounts, different savings accounts that I funnel into. And that's like, so the legal is in case I have to, hire a lawyer for whatever reason. It's like $500 an hour. It's crazy. So I trickle money in there, so that when it does happen, I'm not getting screwed. I have a budget. I'll have like maybe $2,000 in there. Okay, I'm okay for like, whatever the lawyer needs to do for me for like, I don't know, a couple hours, I guess. But anyways, that is the system of the payments, and it took me 10 years to figure this stuff out. I'm still working on it, and it's a very long process. A lot of messing up, a lot of like being short, coming up short, and like kind of taking the loss. Not easy, not a smooth road, but I'm happy to share some of these details with everybody. Now that we're coming up on tax season, it's the next thing. I'm going to drink again here, my tea. Tax season of 2022 is coming right up. And let me tell you, I was so on top of it. The thing about doing taxes as a musician and as a business owner is that you don't just do taxes like in March and April, right? You're doing taxes every single month. You're thinking about the taxes. You're thinking about your deductions. You're thinking about the income, the cash flow, putting money aside for estimated tax payments. So I was like really on top of it this year. I had my whole system of the estimated tax payments, and I was putting money and I was paying the quarterly tax payments. And I just did my taxes. I have the software, and I work with my accountant, and he lets me use the software, his professional software. And man, I came up short with my estimated tax payments. And I think like a lot of people are going to be kind of shocked, because this was like a super season. So, all the 2020 people got put onto 2021, and then all the the new 2021 clients were there. So there was a lot of work. There was a lot of cash flow. It was the highest grossing year for Mod Society in the history of all the years. So we broke that, and I'm really happy about that. But that means that we're going to have to pay more taxes. And I came up short. Like already I'm looking at my tax liability on the software, and it's like $11K short. I'm like, oh shit, man. Like, and it's 11K, it's doable because then my accountant is going to go through it and he's going to sift through it and he's going to do his magic and it's going to bring it down to like an 8 or 9. I hope he brings it down under 10K. But I can't, because of the high cash flow way of this industry, it's like it's not that hard to come up with that money in 2 months. So I'm all good. And plus I have it in savings and other savings accounts. So I'm actually all good. But I really would have liked to hit that those estimated payments right on the money and come up with like a zero liability at the end of the year. It's not easy. It takes time and you have to really calculate it. You have to come up with a formula that works for you. All musicians, we need to take easily 30% out to be conservative out of every paycheck because we don't have a W-2 job, right? We have, we're 1099 contractors and we got to take out our own taxes. So 30% is conservative, is good. I was doing 15% because I thought that I had enough deductions to offset the liability, but really I should have been doing 20%. Anyways, that's specific to me. Don't go out and just take 15% out of your paychecks. It's not. That's really that's not conservative. I was trying to nail it right on the exact amount, but we just had too much cash flow, too much revenue, and you come up short. So a lot of people may be coming up short unless you really took out 30% of everything, maybe more. Some of us, unless also you had a shit ton of deductions. I mean, we bought sound system equipment. I did a lot of advertising. I did a lot of, my payroll was really high. So that was cool in a way. You know, I'm happy to have a high payroll because it's technically a business deduction, right? If I'm paying people more money, it's good for them. They're making money. And I'm also, on the other side of it, I'm getting a bigger deduction. Of course, that, you know, you only go so far into that where it's just not a logical expense. But it was good. It was solid. It was the highest payroll year we've ever had. I'm happy to pay people, but it wasn't enough. I mean, I should have paid people more. Given everybody a raise, no, not really. But, you know, I had to come up with some more deductions to really offset that. But everything's going to be all right. It's all about being prepared and money management, and it's a whole world. I'm going to get more into those details as the podcast continues. So please let me know if you guys are watching YouTube or on Instagram or wherever you're watching this and listening to this. Let me know if you guys are interested in more of the money side of things. I think it's really interesting, and I'm so happy to share with you how that all works. All right, so another question that I get asked a lot, all the time during phone calls, emails with prospective clients is, how does the band work in terms of the personnel, the singers, the musicians? Do you guys have like a set band, or is it kind of like a big roster of people and singers? And that's a great question. I'm going to answer that for you guys. Mod Society traditionally is a set band. Okay, actually we have several bands. They are promoted as a set band, which means that it's usually the same people. Now, there's some level of volatility naturally because human beings are the way that they are, and people either get sick or they have emergencies, or maybe they change their career, or maybe they just want to take some time off. So there's all of that. Also, the nature of booking a band a year and a half in advance, I can't actually, even begin to guarantee who's going to be around. I can kind of give you a guess of who would be, but so if you book Mod Society, I can tell you, especially if you're like within a year, I can tell you pretty much who it would be, the core band and the singers. So for example, right now I'm booking clients for 2023. They're asking me who's around, who's going to be there. I'm telling them that the lineup for every wedding, it gets solidified in January and February of every year, pretty much. Sometimes March, it goes into March and April if it's a later wedding. But usually, if your wedding is in 2022, the lineup is being solidified right now. And I probably already told you, I gave you a good idea of who is going to be on there. So, for example, right now we have a current roster of singers, and in alphabetical order, they are Bellamy, Kenny, Elliot, Lindsay, Renee, Shadrach, and Ziara. Okay, those are the main singers in the roster. Some of them perform more than others. Some of them are more available to Mod Society. Some of them are more available to other bands. So that's another detail about this whole thing, is that everybody in my band plays in other bands. Some of them play, let's say, 90% of the gigs with Mod Society. Some of them just play maybe 10% of the gigs. It depends. In some years, they fluctuate. They do more with some band than the others. The reason is because Mod Society, we have like 50 weddings in a year or something like that. We don't have 80 or 100 weddings. So in order for people to really fill up their calendars, especially if musicians want to work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or throughout the week, right? They need to play with other bands to make that, to fill up the blanks, right? Mod Society does not take every single client that comes their way. I don't book everybody. It's kind of select. It's like around right now 50. I think we maybe went over 50 one year. I'd love to go into the 60s and 70s, but again, I'm going to be taking on clients that maybe aren't the best fit for us. So I'm very careful about that. I really just enjoy working with people that are aligned with my tastes and my personality, right? And the community that I've grown here. So we have about 50 weddings a year, 50 gigs, and the musicians, they work with other bands, and they're everywhere, right? Some people work with like 6 different bands. So it's a big puzzle that gets pieced together. It takes me months. It takes me usually 3 to 4 months. Sometimes it takes me like 6 months to put together the whole, every piece, every person in the band, who's going to be here, who's out on vacation, who's out on tour, who is like here ready to work, who in the band is going to go to their best friend's wedding, right? Because we go to weddings too. We get invited. And sometimes one of the singers in our band is part of the bridal party of another wedding. And so there's all this stuff, right? So it gets solidified January, February, March of every year. But I can give you kind of an idea of who's going to be around. So generally with couples that ask me these questions, I say, take a look at our roster, take a look at all of our videos. If you're happy with any 3 of the singers that you see, any combination, then you should book Mod Society, right? If you're hung up on one singer and you absolutely have to have that one singer, even if it's a singer that I can tell you that probably they're going to be on the gig. But if you're like really hung up on them, and if they're not available, you're really disappointed, then I wouldn't book Mod Society. It can't be that kind of black and white situation where you're going to be really upset. Also, it would put a lot of pressure on me, right? And I don't want that kind of pressure. So generally speaking, you got to be okay with every singer in the roster. And I'll send you photos and videos and things like that. And just by looking at the videos on our website and on Instagram, you're going to get a good feel of the talent. They are all absolutely incredible. They're so talented. I mean, these people, they're doing things that I can't believe they're even doing. The singers, vocally, the range, they all know all the repertoire. That's the other thing. It's not like some singers. I have a couple of singers that more they can do a couple of rap verses, for example. But we don't specialize in that. But they can do that. Or I have some singers that have a kind of a wider repertoire in the 90s, within the 90s realm of that. But again, that comes more into like, you're getting more into specializing. But everybody knows a handful of 90s songs. Everybody knows the Motown repertoire, the disco hits, the Dua Lipa and the Rihanna, all that stuff. Everybody knows it. So that's why they can switch in and out. And that's how musicians in the wedding industry work, they have to know all the repertoire because they swap around between bands, they jump around, and they need to be able to execute all those songs. Even the male singers, they got to know some of the female songs, and vice versa. You know, a lot of the times, the Stevie Wonder is sung by females, and they rock the house. So that's a little bit of an insight of how the roster works, the singers, the musicians, same thing with the rhythm section and the horns. They bounce around all over the place. The Mod Society, our flagship band, we've been together for over 10 years, and it's the same guys. It's pretty much the same guys. Every now and then, our drummer will go on tour. So I'll have our other drummer. We have like 3 or 4 drummers in the roster. They just drop in, bam, they execute, and it's incredible, right? That's how it works. I know that a lot of people don't understand, especially non-musicians, how bands work out. We think of, you know, the Beatles, and it's always the same, right? They don't swap members out. Red Hot Chili Peppers, although actually some bands really do go through rotations. You know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, for example, they've been through a lot of guitar players, for example. So there is some of that, but we're not so used to that. So totally understand that question. I hope this has helped you. Feel free to shoot me any questions via email. Let me know what you guys have in mind. If you have any favorite singers or any musicians that you see, I might be able to do something about that. And we're moving on. Guys, I'm really into this solo podcast situation. I'm going to take another drink of my tea here. I want to talk about some of these phone calls that I'm having with potential clients. And last night I had one at 9 p.m. It was like 9:15. That's the only time they could do it. And the bride-to-be put me on the phone with the whole family on speaker. It was like the mom, the dad, and the groom-to-be. And these people, I knew instantly. The father of the bride came on, right? The big man. And he starts talking. He starts asking questions. He takes command of the conversation because the bride is like asking questions that he wasn't really interested in. He was like, he's a money man. He's gonna pay for this thing, right? So he's gonna have his way in this conversation and say some things. And this guy, he's an old school Italian. His name is Tony. Okay, I'm already loving it. And he's got the vibe. He's got the voice, and he's like everything you would expect. And he starts asking questions about everything, the pricing, the packages, the people in the band. And then he's at one point he's like, so this is an Italian wedding. A lot of older generations. I really want to make sure that it's this is the classy event. Like no sirens and none of that. No, I know there's going to be younger people, but it's important to me. And he's sharing that insecurity, and it's like, man, I got you. I know exactly what we're gonna do, and we're gonna play all the classic Sinatra era jazz during dinner, man, and it's gonna be so smoking, and it's gonna be so classy, and everybody's gonna love it. You're gonna have people on the dance floor early on to all those Sinatra classics. Fly Me to the Moon. The Way You Look Tonight, I Won't Dance, for example. So all that fun stuff is going to be in there. And he was loving it, man. I was describing. He's like, okay, you said all the right things, bro. And then he kept asking me questions. I kept answering. So at one point he was like, man, you know what? I'm going to call you Machine Gun Claudio. And I loved it. And we all laughed, the families there, because he was like, man, you have a reply for everything. And I do. I have it all set, man. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been on the phone with couples and parents. And I have just figured out, I know exactly what they're going to say based on the personality, and I have the right answers. I know everything, all the different options and how to pitch it. So it's been a great ride these 10 years figuring this out. When I was starting out, I was terrified of getting on the phone with somebody that I didn't know. I'm really, shockingly, I'm very introverted, and it was like my biggest fear calling people, because they submit the inquiry and they put their phone number, and everybody's like, man, you got to call them. You can't just do emails. You got to call. It's all about that phone call. and I would be trembling, and I would have to script out my entire conversation with the right questions and exactly what to say. And you would hear my voice shaking the whole time. And it was so cringe. I knew back then that it was cringe. And I could tell that some of the people on the phone also were like, oh, okay, this guy's kind of new to the thing. But it gets easier. It gets way easier, and you get more confident. And then you hear them, and you start picking up on like their insecurities, because most of them have never done this before. So what do they know? So they're like the newbies, right? People calling me on the phone, people getting married, couples, they are new to this thing. They don't know what's happening. You got to let them know what the deal is. Okay. And the more confidence you have, the more it sells itself, right? I can't come up there on the phone call and start being like, well, I have this band, and yeah, they're pretty cool, but it's like, let's just see what your budget is. And no. Right? You got to have the energy, the enthusiasm, the excitement. Like, I love this band because I made it, and I made it just the way that I want to make it. And this is the product. And I'm so excited about it because it's my baby, right? And they pick up on that energy, and they love it. They absolutely love it. It's extremely compelling. So learning to be a salesman, it's taken me a while, but it's so key. The energy really does transfer. It's a big part of it. It's a big part. I make sure that I'm in the right headspace when I pick up that phone call, that Zoom call. The energy is there. I gotta make sure that I communicate how much I love what I do, right? So it's so much fun. Every time I get these boomer parents, man, it's like it's such a riot because they grew up in the 70s, right? It's rock and roll, straight rock and roll. So they have that kind of energy, and I absolutely love getting the parents on there. So if you're a parent listening to this, give me a shout. All right. We're going to end the podcast with a review. I really like this review here. It was for a wedding that was in August, okay? This past August, and I'm just going to read it. Matsu Sadie was the very first vendor we booked after setting the date, and when we had to reschedule due to the pandemic, our new date was always going to be contingent on their availability. They are that good. From striking the perfect tone during our ceremony to bringing the house down after the reception. Seriously, the amount of talent these musicians have is truly incredible. On top of this, there's also the band leader, creator, and bass player, Claudio. He handles all communication for the band and is so incredibly on top of it. His responses were always prompt and incredibly thoughtful. We had some non-traditional song requests for him, and not only did he deliver, but he worked with us to make sure that what we were imagining is what our guests ended up hearing. The man is great. His band is out of this world. You would be doing yourself a disservice to hire anybody else. Trust us. Absolutely love it. Thank you, Neil and Kat. Okay, this couple, they saw us in like 2016, 2017, something like that, at another wedding. And they're coming from a musical theater kind of background, and it was so much fun. I mean, they had like this whole the whole wedding out in the woods. And man, it was a whole vibe, everything. And they were absolutely the best couple to work with. So thank you so much, Neil and Kat. I hope to get more clients like you guys, and I'll see you on Instagram. So everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Tales from the Wedding Trails. I'll be back with another episode soon, so stay tuned. Peace.